Right. So health reform. Think of your health as a great treasure. Back in the time of the pirates, when I was a young girl, I used to love to hear about these pirate stories and them digging for treasure chests and hiding it off on some island, and it would make the people do the most gross things just to find that treasure and to feel like they could live the rest of their lives in luxury. But you know what? What's even greater than a treasure chest? Yes, it's your health. It is the richest possession that mortals can have. So many people have had lots of money and they spent a whole lot of it in trying to enjoy themselves and to indulge themselves to the highest level with whatever it is they like. But when the day comes and they face the grim reaper, they find that they are not able to use their wealth to recover their health. So it's something that's wealth, honor, and learning dearly purchased. If it be at the loss of the vigor of health, none of these attainments can secure happiness if health is wanting. And you know one area in life where a lot of us make that mistake? Sometime when we're trying to achieve a degree, a master's degree or a PhD or something like that, we put out a lot of effort, don't eat enough, study hard, give up sleep in order to get that degree. And then afterwards, we're sick. We need to be very careful. Thanks. Could you move on to the next slide, Rihanna? So, what really is it? What is health reform? Well, I don't see anywhere in the book where it really defines what it means. So I hope you will bear with me in trying to put it in my own words as to what I believe it is. You know, I did a little search to see what Google would say it is, but Google was putting it from the standpoint of the government or maybe the World Health Organization, suggesting that you should follow the guidelines set by the health ministry in your country and take certain measures and make sure you take your medication and follow health guidelines set down by your country and the doctors in your country. But when you really think about it, is health reform just about medicine and following guidelines set by humans? And so when I thought about it, I I realized that hey, I have to come up with my own definition. So, from a personal standpoint, it involves a holistic change in our ideas, our practices, and principles that govern our lifestyle. It must be a change that we make to consistently promote healthful practices for all aspects of life, be it social, physical, spiritual, or mental. All four of them, because that is when you really become a rounded person. I also came upon something else as I was searching to see what health was about because I realized that the way how this world pictures health or how this world looks at health is totally different from what God gives us to say that this is health. So you see me have a name there, and the name there is Yuval Harari. He actually is a very senior chief advisor to the the World Economic Forum. And he has taken over to some extent in wanting to speak on the topic of health and what they want the future to look like with health. For those of us who do not know what is the World Economic Forum, it's an organization that has been around for quite a number of years now, but only lately they've been coming out up in the forefront, and the things that they're planning are actually being are public. It's not secret, and this particular gentleman has spoken quite a lot, Mr. Yuval Noah Harari, and it's interesting to hear some of the things that they're planning for humanity. Oh, by the way, the World Economic Forum, when they say things, it happens in the world. what was to be done under COVID, it happened. They said it, it happened. So they seem to have membership of persons that are influential around the world. So one of the things Mr. Harari said, we don't need to wait for the second coming of Jesus in order to overcome death. A couple of geeks in a lab can do that. If traditionally death was a specialty of priests and theologians, now the engineers are taking it over. So as far as he's concerned, you don't need to go to Jesus for eternal life. We can build that for you in a lab. He also had something to say about curing diseases. He says the focus is shifting from curing specific illnesses to treating aging itself as a disease. So what they're planning to do is to keep you from getting old and never die. And I don't, this is not the forum for me to go into the details as to how they will do that. But if you research it a bit more, you'll find it very interesting. Another thing they propose to do is to hack human bodies. How do they do that? They want to combine biology, that means the human body, with AI, blending man with machine. They want to give you under the skin surveillance, implanting chips or other microbes that will monitor your heart rate, what's in your blood sugar levels, etc. And of course, they also have their plans what they will do with the useless eaters. You can think about that and realize what that means. So they want to go way past the practices that happens now of just giving people drugs. It is going to be very intrusive what health will look like a few years from now. Next slide, Mariana. So, um, health reform is not about taking your medication. It's not about, um, oh, I need to eat vegetables and fruits, or hey, I need to make sure I go and jog around the block every day. Yeah, it's good to do exercise and eat right, but health reform is more than that. And I'm hoping as we go through this presentation, it will come to you how holistic it really is. Next slide, please. Brianna, could you speak to this for us?
Yeah, I hope you're hearing me right now. So,
Yes, we are.
good. So, we are the stewards of our own health. What's a steward? Well, usually, if you put someone in charge of something, you want to make sure that they're maintaining it. But sometimes, especially when you put somebody in charge of something that's very important to you, you want to know it's not only maintained but improved, right? We know the story in the Bible where he gave some talents to his stewards of his home. And when he came back, some of them increased them, and one of them actually buried them. So health should be as sacredly guarded as the character. As much as you want to have a good character to ensure that you don't lie, steal, cheat, and you uphold that integrity, the same amount of alacrity and energy you put into ensuring that you are the person that you want other people to know you as and that you represent Christ, all right, you should put that same energy into your health. Are we guarding our health? Are we guarding our health? Are we guarding the things that we eat? But it's not only what we eat, it's how we dress, how we live, how we work, how we sleep, how we rest. Our physical, mental, and moral powers are not our own, but they're lent to us by God to be used in His service. So not only are we stewards, holding it, maintaining it, and improving it, but we're also supposed to be using it and using it for His service. There's a lot of ways that we can talk about His service, but sometimes our service is just to be a walking testimony. Now, we'll see a little bit further in the presentation, but if we are constantly sick, not because of issues outside of our control, but if we are constantly sick for things that we have caused upon ourselves, Do you think we're doing God service? That's a question to think about. So, if I decide to do all these practices in health reform, we defined it before, but we'll give some more explanation on it later. If I do all these practices and promises and promise to follow health reform, the question is, what does God promise me? Now, God has pledged himself, and pledge means God does not lie. He's not like man. He has pledged himself that this living machinery, which is our body, the most perfect machine ever on the face of this earth, will be in healthful action if humans will just obey the laws and cooperate with God. Now, if you buy a car and it has a manual and you purposely and intentionally all the time do exactly what the manual tells you not to do you think you can go to the car company and claim that your warranty needs to be in effect and you get a new car if you've purposely done everything against the warranty? No. And I've tried to get warranty on my car before and they told me that I could not because I'm the one who damaged it. So, do we think that we can do the same with our bodies and not face the consequences of them? But God has promised us, but the inverse is also true. Because many people will ask, what can I do to preserve my health? Do I need to run 10 miles a day? Do I need to drink chlorophyll? And there's also a man on the internet, I'm not sure of his name right now, but he has been foremost in trying to, as Sister Jackie mentioned before, reverse aging. And he spent millions of dollars on trying to reverse his age. But is that what we need to be healthy? No. Cease to transgress the laws of your being. Cease to gratify your depraved appetite. Eat simple food. Dress healthfully, which require modest simplicity. Work healthfully, and you won't be sick. Many people might even follow all the laws of dietary reform, but they still work long hours every day. Or they still aren't putting their trust in God, so they're stressed all the time. Health reform is not just about what you eat, it's about how you work, how you live, how you dress, and you rest, as I mentioned before. So when we do our parts to have health, then we may expect blessed results to follow. And we can ask God in faith to bless our efforts and for the preservation of health. He will answer our prayers. God will not work in a miraculous manner, and let's hear this carefully, to preserve health of those who are taking a sure course to make themselves sick. Even more so, people who know that the course they're taking will make themselves sick. So, in health reform, what do I need to make these intelligent choices? What do I need to be able to be successful? Because we don't want to fail, and God obviously doesn't want us to fail. He always gives us all of our laws, all of these laws for our good always, for our happiness always, that we may live long upon the earth which the Lord giveth us. So, one, we need to make intelligent choices. To make intelligent choices, we'll need to make informed choices. How does one make informed choices? We need more information, right? We need to make a firm decision. So once we've made that informed choice, we got to stick to it. We can't be flip-flopping all the time. God wants us to be able to be people who stand up on what we say. Our yes be yes and our no be no. Steadfastness and resilience, which falls a lot in line with firm decision. Consistency and faith, because we can do nothing without God, but we can do all things through Christ. Because a lot of times, if I'm talking for myself as well, sometimes you might know the right thing and it's hard to make that decision, but that's why faith comes in. And trust me, the more you exercise a muscle, the stronger it gets. The more you learn how to be consistent and the more you learn how to be decisive, is the easier it is every single time you have to make that decision. The love of God and the love of the truth. It's one thing to know the truth and it's one thing to love the truth. It's one thing to know that you shouldn't do this or that. And it's a different thing to see you making that change in your life and seeing the results of happiness and health. And therefore, you love it even more because you know what it has done for you. I think that's the most beautiful thing about health reform. It's not just information, it's a life lived happier, it's a life lived healthier, and it's a life that you've lived that you now want to share with others. Which brings it to the other point, willingness to share with others. There's no way you can love people around you with the love of God, or even just your friends and your family, and you see them struggling, and you have experienced something that has made you 10 times happier and healthier, and not wanted to share with them. And sometimes truth may come as an offense. However, I want us to remember that a lot of times the way that we share things and the manner in which we present it may also increase the possibility that someone else will accept it, and always continuing education. We're here to learn. We know in part and we prophesy in part. There's so much more to learn. There's so much more to learn all the time. But let's talk about what are some of those sources that we can get our education from. Now, it's on point three here, but since I mentioned it, I'm going to drop into it very quickly. We can learn from the Bible. There are so many health principles that are outlined in the Bible, like how many times per day should you eat? What kind of food should we eat? You know, how should we dress? What's helpful time for sleeping? What's helpful time for working? What happens when you do too much book work? What happens when you do too much physical labor? Believe it or not, there are so many lessons you can learn from the Bible. You can also learn a lot of lessons from Spirits of Prophecy. We're doing that right now, and we're reviewing the book Healthful Living. And you can also learn from good science. I love academic papers, but not everybody is going to want to read academic papers. There are things more intense if you want to go that deep, or you can go very surface level with some very easy reading articles. Nonetheless, there's so much to learn online in the Bible and from Spirit of Prophecy. However, we have to put good science in there, and good science is whatever harmonizes with the Bible and Spirit of Prophecy, because there's many ways to the healing arts. I know you've heard of Tai Chi. I know you've heard of Chinese medicine. I know you've heard of Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine. There's so many different ways that people practice the healing arts, but there's only one way, you hear me? There's one way that heaven approves. So this is not find everything on the internet and jump with it. This is, does this agree with the law and the prophets? AKA, does this line up with the Bible say? And most importantly, does this fix my trust and my hope for healing and health in God? Or does it make me trust in myself more? Does it make me trust in man more? Does it make me trust more in herbs than in the God who gave the herbs? That's a really good bottom line question to ask for almost everything that you want to implement. Now, you need education on the matter so you don't hurt yourself. It's not so just about eating callaloo and cabbage. And I've heard so many people told me, oh, I've tried health reform and I can't do it. I have to go back to fish and all those things. And I'm like, okay, what did you eat? You know, I just eat steamed veg every day. No. Again, even the Bible showed us we need a large variety of food because in many different foods come many different nutrients, a lot of vitamins and minerals, and all of that cannot be had from the same food repetitively. So it's not all about food. It's about your whole lifestyle. You're reading, you're resting, you're eating, you're exercising, you're thinking. Trust me, guys, thinking is one of the biggest things, and your clothing. So you should, this education should help you figure out what you've been doing wrong and what you've been doing right. Then you can start with an idea of the changes that are required. There are evaluation models available that can help you to start just looking at how you can apply the laws of health. And if you want to ask for any of those documents, they're like a little questionnaires that you can go step by step throughout your life and all your habits and all your practices and see what things you've been doing great. Give yourself a clap, thank God. And for the things that you haven't been doing great, by faith, let's see how we can change these. Okay, Sister Jackie, can you pick back up, please?
Yeah, thanks, Rihanna. Whoa, I'm here enjoying it. I forgot that I'm next. Whoa, that's really good information, Rihanna. Uh, so, what can health reform principles achieve? So, somebody trying to call me. I got to. Just a moment. Yeah, sorry. What can health reform principles achieve? This person is very persistent with trying to call me. I'm so sorry. Oh dear. Okay, sorry about that. So God's way is to make man something he is not. And I'm sure a lot of us can think about the things that we're not. Oh, I am not pure. No, I'm not holy. No, I am not exercising. No, I am not eating right. No, I am not dressing right. Oh, you may end up putting your face in your hands and shake your head and say, Lord, I'm really not getting anything right, am I? But here it is, we're told God's way is to make man something he is not. So, whatever you can think of that you're not, God says, I can make you what you're not. God's plan is to set man to work in reformatory lines. Then he will learn by experience how long he has really pampered fleshly appetites and ministered to his own temperament, bringing weakness upon himself. So, when we start to follow God's way, we will really start to appreciate what evil we've been doing to ourselves all these years when we were just pampering ourselves and catering to our appetites and our own lust and our own indulgences. And we'll start to realize how weak we made ourselves. We even made ourselves so weak to say no when we see things that we know isn't good for us and we still want to go out for it. So God really has to work really hard on us and we got to cooperate, but He says He can do it. So we got to trust Him. The ministers of our land should become intelligent upon health reform. The ministers, so it's not just the honorary members or those who want to go and learn about health reform. God is expecting it of the pastors. Those who are ministering to the flock, they need to become intelligent with regard to this matter as well. They need to become acquainted with the science of physiology. Then they will be intelligent in regards to the laws that govern physical life and their bearings upon the health of mind and soul, and will be able to speak correctly upon this subject. In their obedience to physical laws, they are to hold forth word of life to the people and lead up higher and still higher in the work of reform. So the ministers, and that doesn't include the pastors alone, it includes anybody who has influence in the church, who has influence in a community, persons who minister to others, whether it is in the word of God or in helping in dealing with little children, whatever, as long as you're a child of God, the Lord expects you to fulfill this which we've just read. And as Cherise had pointed out about 2 weeks ago, we need to understand our bodies. We need to know how it works. We need to understand, even if it's basic physiology, we need to know how it works. And then we can intelligently make decisions, intelligent decisions, and be able to apply the laws that govern our lives. Thank you very much, Rihanna. Move to the next slide. And it's also best for us to follow it because we are able to communicate with heaven. This is what it says in Spirit of Prophecy. All who profess to be followers of Jesus should feel that a duty rests upon them to preserve their bodies in the best condition of health, that their minds may be clear to comprehend heavenly things. So, health reform is really important for us to be able to even start to understand the Bible. Have you ever picked up the Bible before and just start to read it? And when you finish reading a whole chapter, you're like, what did that just say? Don't understand anything. Yeah, you feel don't. Well, the Lord doesn't intend that to happen to us. When we start to follow health reform, we will love that book, the Bible, and we will learn. He will teach us. We'll find out how to study it, and we will apply the study principles, and it will make lots of sense and we'll be able to share it with others. We will be able to comprehend what heaven has been trying to teach us for ages. And you know what? A sound body is required for a sound intellect. If the body needs fixing, you can be sure that the appetite, the health, needs to fix. The body and the brain work together. They both need to be fixed, and we have to follow what the Lord says. Rihanna, over to you. Go to the slide that says, how do I avoid extremes? Yeah, that's you. That's it.
So, how do you avoid extremes? I've heard a lot of people say, you know, if you get like a bit too fanatic about the thing, you can't be reading all of your ingredients list, but just take up something and eat it, hungry. Or, if it's time to eat at a certain time and I'm not ready to eat at that time, like, say you're hungry, man, just take the food and eat it now. Are we is this extreme? Are we being crazy? What's going on? Or there's sometimes when, you know, some people will say certain things and you look at them sideways like, ah, is that I'm supposed to do all of that? No, let's take on some of those changes gradually. Rome was not built in a day, and neither was reform. For something to last the best, it has to be something that is consistent, something that's repeatable, and something that starting takes the least amount of effort. Have you ever tried to change a habit and cut cold turkey one time? Sometimes people can do that based on their willpower, but not everybody has the same willpower, and we shouldn't guilt or blame anyone for not having that willpower. What's most important is real intent and consistency in what you start. So, when you learn something new, prayerfully and with common sense, apply it. So, some foods agree with some people and some don't. I love beans, never had an issue with beans. I know people who cannot stomach beans at all. Does it mean that you're bad or something's wrong with you? You're not trying hard enough if you can't eat beans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No, you just need to find what works for you. So, one thing you almost know, flesh eating never agrees with anyone. Scientifically, and all the good science shows that our body shows that, how we feel shows that. So don't take on the idea that agrees with you. If you stop eating meat for a while and realize that you feel really tired, I want you to know that meat actually has addictive properties. It's actually made to feel like you need it. After a while, especially if you decide to take on a fast, your body soon gets acclimatized to more natural foods and to healthier foods. Or if you have passed that part and you stop your feeling for meat and you're still feeling weak and tired, you probably need to check if you're eating a good variety. One, if you're having all of your macro and micronutrients too, and if you aren't, where necessary, how can you supplement it? Now, you can eliminate fresh foods gradually, and as you do, find things to replace it. Of course, you need to try and have a balanced diet to keep you happy. And trust me, a lot of times when people are malnourished, they don't realize that what might be leading to depression, sadness, emptiness. And trust me, not only vegans are malnourished, there are many people who eat all of the flesh diets, but they're still malnourished, especially in calcium, believe it or not. So, health performers, above all, should shun extremes. Just because something works for you doesn't mean you need to force it for someone else to do it as well. So, by the way, people may still call you fanatic even when you're not extreme. So, get used to the name calling. Ensure you're always backed by the Bible, spirit of prophecy, and good science. And just know that whatever you choose to do shouldn't be forced on anyone else. It's what you have come to your conclusion with your convictions and bless the Lord. And if someone else can be blessed by applying that to their lives, then that's great. So always ensure that the way in which you walk, you know it's a safe path for others to follow. So, how do you share health reform message? Wow, we're walking right into these questions perfectly, right? In reforms, we would better come one step short of the mark than to go one step beyond it. What does that mean? Let's say, let's do something that's random, you know? Instead of telling people, you need to only eat one leaf of callaloo, and you think you need to tell people only eat one leaf of callaloo, tell people to eat callaloo. It's better to shun extremes where some people might feel extra restrictive. If you know anything about your teenage years, if you know anything about your teenage years, more than likely you were the teenager that once your parents said don't, you said, I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what you said. Adults are not that much different. If a lot of times when things feel extra restrictive, the brain feels, I don't want this barrier on me. I'm going to run as far away as possible from this. Unfortunately, a lot of people also do that in teaching health reform. They teach the most extreme, most rigid, most restrictive options, appetite, dress, and all those things, makes people feel very scared of not only adopting it, but if they even will be able to adopt it, and they prefer to run as far away than to try and adopt it and fail. Or worse, to make themselves less healthy or look less, I guess, as weird to everybody else as possible. So, if there is any error at all, let it be on the side next to the people. Not onto the people who are teaching it, but to the people who have adopted it and choose to do some other random crazy thing. We must not go any faster than we can take those whose consciences and intellects are convinced of the truth that you advocate. Why are you going to push something on someone who is barely convinced that this is the right thing in the first place? Be very cautious not to advance too fast, lest we be obliged to retrace our steps. So if we come to persons who have not been enlightened in regard to the health reform and present our strongest positions first, there's danger of them being discouraged as they see how much they have to give up and they'll make no effort to reform. Remember, we just spoke about it. We're almost basically all teenagers at heart, and God knows that. That's why He's so patient with us. So we must lead the people along patiently and say it with me, gradually, remembering the whole of the pit from which we were digged. And trust me, it took me years to make a lot of the changes I made with careful learning, step by step myself. So you're just basically helping people to go a little bit faster than you did because you have all the information for them. But remember how overwhelmed you were when you just started. And if you've never started, start one step at
Yeah.
a time.
And Rihanna, if it helps, I'd also like to add a little anecdote, a little story from the Bible. When Jacob left Laban and he and his entire family were going back home to where they were from, where Isaac was from, he had to lead everybody, and there was a point where the younger ones couldn't go that fast, and they're the little sheep that couldn't go that fast, and so he let some go ahead, and the ones that were slow, he led them slowly along. And we should think of Jesus like that, as our great shepherd. He doesn't lead the sheep faster than they can go. And so that is how gently the Lord wants us to teach others. And when they see how gentle we are and how patient, and when they start to see the positive returns to themselves because of the changes they've made, they will want to do more changes. I would love to just give a quick testimony. A lady, up to today, I haven't met the lady while she was sick, but I was told about her. She had this horrible cough and phlegm that was just just preponderous, a whole heap just coming up, and she just didn't know what was causing it. And she felt like her lung was inflamed. There was something on her chest. And I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I couldn't figure out what's going on with this lady. I mean, there are things that she could take, yes, that could deal with the respiratory problem, but there was something, and I tried to tell her about the diet, etc. And the spirit said to me, "You're gonna deal with it very slowly, very gently." She ate all the different types of meat, and I said, "Okay, why not cut out the pork first?" Yeah, cut out the pork first, and she did that. I said, "Okay, can you cut out the chicken?" And instead of eating it every day, can you try just like 3 days a week? And she did that. And then she said, a little after that, she said, it's not so much cold coming up anymore. It's not so bad. I said, "Okay, you're gonna take the washout now. You're gonna take some cold and cleanse." And I sent it for her. And she started to report that, but it took a little while. But I was so glad this lady had the patience, because some people want to see the change immediately, but she stuck with it for about 2 3 months. And she gradually took everything off. And afterwards, she came and said, "I had constipation and it's no more. And I don't eat the meat anymore." She continued until she cut it all out, changed her diet, exercise, got sunlight, just getting the tips little by little. And today, she is free of all of that sickness. And she is just praising God and thanking God for what He has done. So, if that helps, that's just a little example of how we can help people. Don't give them everything one time. Cut this, cut that, cut that. Too much. You have to do it little by little. Can you continue, Rihanna?
Yeah, you can pick up at this slide.
I'll pick up from here then. Thank you. So for all of us who are listening, I'm sure we're all geared up now already. If we haven't started health reform yet, we're like, yes, I think I want to do this. So as you take the plunge into health reform, you got to do something. You got to believe in God's promise to help you. Ask Him for the truth. Ask, because there are so many other methods out there of healing, and you really don't want to go pick up the wrong one and end up hurting yourself. And you're going to ask Him for to lead you to the truth. He will let you come across the truth. Ask Him to give you health, to stand behind His promise that He has pledged that if you follow Him, He will give you health. Ask Him for the moral courage, because sometimes it takes courage to say no. I was working at a place one time, and they would always trouble me about my vegetarian diet, and the firm was having a function which I had to go. I was there, and they carried the chicken, and the boss did it, put the chicken in front of me. I said, "Eat, man, eat the chicken. I love it, not gonna hurt you." And I said, "No, thank you." And then the next manager, he came and he wanted me to drink some wine. I said, "No, thank you." And he come back again and said, "Wow." And, they started to laugh at me and ridicule me, and, a little wine for the stomach's sake. And I don't even know where it came from. It just came out of my mouth. Wine is a mocker, and strong drink is raging, and he that is deceived thereby is not wise. You see, after I said those words, not another sound from anybody in mockery or trying to convince me to eat that which I did not eat. So sometimes you just have to pray and say, "Lord, give me the moral courage to say no and to set things in motion." Because from that day, they didn't ask me to eat meat again. Pray and ask God for self denying strength over appetite and for divine power to move up higher. We want to get higher. We want to be noble, courageous people. We need to be different. So, what are some of these reforms I will have to make? Give me some examples. So, I've been hearing you talking about health reform, and you don't tell me exactly what I have to do. And you're probably wondering to yourself, what do you mean health reform? What are some of these things I have to do? So, to help bring out what what are some of these reforms or what they might be? Here are some quotes straight from the book, Healthful Living, that may help to explain what areas, health reform is talking about and what it can do for the body. Because really and truly, health reform, as you see, can be quite wide, and the short time we have this evening really cannot cover all that health reform, deals with in our lives. So here is one statement from page 40, paragraph 3 of the book. It says, those things which fret and derange the stomach will have a benumbing influence upon the inner feelings of the heart. So, what does it mean to fret and derange the stomach?
Well,
So,
Sister Jackie, it does say finer feelings, the finer feelings of the heart.
yeah, thank you,
So
Rihanna.
I
And
guess what
go right ahead.
I was saying that, the finer feelings of the heart, just like how the stomach is such a gentle little organ, the same thing with the heart. Those small little feelings that we feel, it does affect it.
Amen. And I also thought, when I saw the finer feelings of the heart, I also thought about our emotions and our ability to have empathy, compassion to others. And so it seems like what we eat can actually affect our emotional state and our ability to show the right emotions to others who need that kind of gentleness from us. And I looked up what it meant to fret and derange the stomach. So apparently, those words, fret and derange, are some old time words that they used to use um, as part of their literature when they talk about holistic health. And it describes the disruption of the digestive system through irritating, unhealthy, or improperly prepared food. And it means placing a burden on the digestive organs that cause them to become disordered, inflamed, or unable to function properly. To fret the stomach, it refers to irritating or causing inflammation to the delicate lining of the stomach, usually by consuming spicy food, rich food, greasy food, or eating in a state of stress. So by just looking at these and these particular things that I just mentioned, spicy, rich, greasy, and eating under stress, all of these different conditions are mentioned in the book, where we are told that we should not have these, or we should not eat if we're in a great hurry. We shouldn't sit down and eat a meal while we're in a hurry, or if we're under undue stress or going under terrible grief, because it will fret the stomach. And so we see good science lining up with the spirit of prophecy right there. Deranging the stomach. This refers to throwing the stomach's natural, go back to the slide, Ray, thank you, natural orderly digestive processes into confusion or disorder. This can result in symptoms like bloating, heartburn, nausea, and general indigestion. And I think a lot of people have been in this position before. And so health reform prevents these conditions in your stomach. Dietary factors like, but what are some of the common causes? Eating large quantities of food, so that is overeating. Health reform requires that we should not overeat, even if it is good food, or consuming too many condiments, or consuming condiments at all. What are condiments? Condiments are things like pickles, mayonnaise,
Mhm.
salad dressing, things with vinegar in it, that we may take, even ketchup. Anything with vinegar in it is a condiment, and they tend to affect the stomach's ability to work normally. It also includes rich pastries. Most of the pastries we eat are full of a lot of fat, a lot of sugar and milk and butter. It's not good. Fatty foods, cheese, or improperly cooked foods. These are some of the dietary factors that can cause it. So by just listing out all of these, you're having an idea as to health reform from the standpoint of what you eat. What about other standpoints, your lifestyle? So if you're stressed, if you're somebody who smokes, if you're somebody who drinks, it can affect you. I won't stress it too much. I think we get the picture. So we should eat, We should drink and we should dress in accordance with the health reform message that we have received. Now, you must be wondering, dressing, because I think we looked a bit at eating and drinking. Dressing. How can how I dress affect me? Well, not only does the way we dress affect our morals. Rihanna, go back to the slide before that. Thanks. Not only how we dress affect our morals or show what morals we have, because sometimes the clothing that we wear are not really appropriate for a Christian. But then from a physiological standpoint, those garments are still not healthful. Okay, here is an example. For perfect health, the book explains that there must be perfect circulation. For you to have perfect circulation, there must be equality of of temperature, the temperature all over the body. So the blood must have free flow all over the body. There can't be parts of the body where it is constantly exposed to chill, to a cooler thing, while the other parts like the torso, etc., is always covered up and in warmer clothes. So the legs, the extremities need to be covered. After a while, as people get older, you will find they will start to have swollen feet. They will start to have problems with their feet. They'll start to have problems with their legs. And they'll even start to have other problems with their internal organs because they have constantly left their limbs uncovered. Actually, it can even cause high blood pressure if your limbs are not covered. So dressing is very important for health. Rihanna, you could bring back the slide. I believe there's a question there I want to put to the class. Thank you. So there's a question. Why does eating, drinking, and dressing affect my morals and my blood flow and my spiritual advancement? So we looked at eating, we looked at drinking and dressing, we looked at the morals to an extent, and spiritual advancement. Let's go to the next slide. And here's the answer. Satan knows that he cannot overcome man unless he can control his will. He can do this by deceiving man so that he will cooperate with him in transgressing the laws of nature. So because we want to look pretty, according to pretty from the world's perspective, and so we want to wear that particular shoes, although we know it is not good for our uterus and the tilt it causes in the body. And because we want to not look old and fuddy-duddy, we want to wear that short dress. And all the guys are wearing their pants way down. They're not wearing it on their waist. I'm the only one that is going to look different, so I'm going to wear my pants like the others, and I'll walk funny and not be able to control how I have my proper posture and how I should have a proper gait, damaging myself. All of these things, we are following Satan, who is the god of fashion, who causes us to try and follow the fashions so that we lose our way. Anything that lessens the physical power enfeebles the mind and makes it less clear to discriminate between good and evil, between right and wrong. So that's how these things affect us when we don't eat, drink, or dress properly. It can actually corrupt our mind, so we cannot know right from wrong. We will not be able to discriminate after a while. And the things that we once knew was quite wrong and we would never do it, we reason in our mind that it's okay, nothing is wrong with that. A religious life can be more successfully gained and maintained if flesh meat are discarded, for a meat diet stimulates into intense activity lustful propensities, enfeebles the spiritual and the moral nature. This need a lot of explanation. We don't have the time on our hands, but I'm sure as the next presenters present, we will hear more about that. So, what does God want me to do as I am experiencing my lifestyle change? we begin to comprehend better the light given years ago, the health reform principles would be an entering wedge to be followed by a religious influence. So when you know about health, or when you practice what God has shown you and you get better, and the diseases that we know are going to take the world by storm, because COVID was just practice, COVID was dry run. And when the Adventists, the ones who know about the health message, just like the people in Loma Linda who they say are the longest livers, the ones who live the longest in the US, people look to them to find out how to deal with aging and how to age gracefully and not to get sick. When they find out that we are the ones with the health message, it will be the opening wedge for us to come to them with the three angels' message, the message of the gospel, that they may know that Jesus saves. So let us be determined to glorify God with our new lifestyle, health reform. Is this salvational? Do you suppose it has anything to do with the closing work on the earth? Is this message salvational, guys? Does it matter if I follow health reform? Will I be lost? Well, here we have it. Won't read everything, but you can look at it later. The need of healthful habits is a part of the gospel which must be presented to the people by those who hold forth the word of life. Take the living principles of health reform into communities that to a large degree are ignorant of what they should do. That's what I was just explaining. That is the opening wedge. Take it to people who don't have a clue as to what it is they're doing wrong so they can find health. The presentation of health principles must be united with this message, but must not be independent of it in any or in any way take the place of it. So while we're presenting the health message, we should not let the health message overtake and overshadow and keep the gospel message in the background. It must not do that. It must go hand in hand with the gospel, because Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. He came to heal, forgive, and to give life. Next one, to make plain natural law. To make plain natural law, urge the obedience of it, is a work that accompanies the third angel's message to prepare a people for the coming of the Lord. So this how important it is. It is to prepare people for the coming of the Lord. So we can't think it's optional. We can't say, well, health reform is for those who can manage it. I can't manage it. It's for every single one of us. Everyone that is listening to my voice. Health reform is for you. Thank you very much. I think we finished at 7:02. I think Brother Chang had a point or he had a question. And I don't know if anybody else had a question. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Brother Keneal, Rihanna, and I thank you for the opportunity that we could share with others.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you both for just ably presenting. It's almost anticlimactic the way you ended. I was just looking for more, and I know it's a time constraint, and you're just abiding by the time that we have. I'm going to ask you, though, if you are just be willing to take a few questions. I'm currently in transit, which is why my video isn't open, but I'm going to read a question here in the chat, and I invite you to just give your feedback on it. It says here, should breastfeeding or pregnant women engage in religious fast?
Well, it depends on the health of that woman. As a matter of fact, I would definitely think no. I remember when I was a mother and when I was breastfeeding, I would be so hungry and so thirsty. And I believe that you really need to have enough nourishment. Unless, I know if the mother doesn't have anything, she's going to have to breastfeed just the same. But if she's a thin woman, if she's not wasn't in the habit of eating well before, if her body was lacking things, there's so many things that can determine if she should do that. Up on the face of it, I would say no. I think she must can wait a few more months, and then do her fast. She needs to put the child first and her health first, because when you're a mother, you're actually eating for two. And if she doesn't eat, if she, and it depends on how long she's gonna fast. I mean, a 1 or 2 meal, missing a meal, okay, but to be fasting for days, I don't believe that is wise when you're breastfeeding. The mother needs to make sure there's enough nourishment for herself and her child, because if she doesn't eat well, and the child needs certain nourishment, the body is still gonna pull from her bones, pull from whatever resources or whatever minerals in her body to put in the breast milk to give to the baby. She can actually have dental problems and stuff like that by going on that fast for days and denying herself the food she needs.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That makes so much sense. Thank you, Sister Jackie, for that insight. How about the idea that when you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you should just eat whatever you feel for?
That's another thing too, because when you are pregnant, you're bringing another life into this earth, and that life you have a responsibility. A lot of what you do while you're pregnant, by not being in control, by giving up the ability to be in control of what you eat, and just giving into every and anything, you are setting a bad precedence for your child, because the child is going to come just like that, will not have the self-control, the self-will to deal with issues in its life. The mother at that point in time is especially at that point where she needs to practice self-control and not give in to eating any and everything whenever she wants. Even if she's pregnant, she still needs to have regular meals at the appropriate time, eating a balanced diet. By doing that, she's teaching her children, or that unborn child, the principle of self-governance, moral worth, self-worth. She needs to eat right.
Powerful. Thank you so much. Just one last question, and then we'll let you go. There's one in the chat on YouTube. I think you kind of touched on this, but it says what to do when persons ask you, "What do you do?" and then they say it's too difficult.
What do you
What do
do
you
when
do when
this?
this?
I'm trying to
I'm trying to
repeat.
repeat. Yes, it says, "What do you do when people keep asking what you do and then say it's too difficult?"
Maybe a great
Maybe.
option would
Rena,
be
you can take that first.
maybe a good option would be recommending, like making a recommendation and pointing out the principle behind why that choice is necessary and how they can incorporate it, and making it very clear that what you do is not the standard. Um, just explaining the principles helps other people to be able to not only conscientiously understand why it's something good they can incorporate, but see how they can incorporate it to their lives and not necessarily put you as a rule.
Yeah, yeah. And as you had said while you were presenting, Rihanna, the changes must be gradual. It's not recommended for people to go cold turkey. Um, I can give you one instance about this gentleman. Well, I visited a sister who was sick. She had a stroke, and this lady came to visit her, and she came with her husband. And the person who had the stroke asked me, what do you suggest I do to deal with my high cholesterol? And I said, well, for one, I've noticed you're having a meal there and there's a lot of grease, and it's highly recommended that you cut out all that fat. And the type of meat you're having, that most of the fat is coming from that meat. So it looks like the best thing to do is to try to cut back on the flesh until you can, cut it out of your diet. And the lady that was visiting her started to complain and said, don't you tell her about a vegetarian diet, because my husband was a vegetarian and he ended up at the doctor and he was so sick, and it's no good. That diet is no good. Nobody should go vegetarian. So I said, well, what did he eat? And she said, oh, every day he had his callaloo and cabbage. Every day I had a callaloo or cabbage. And I said, oh, that's why. Because their idea, a lot of people, their idea of becoming a vegetarian is that all you eat is callaloo and cabbage, and probably some rice or food, and that's it. And you can't do that because the body needs other things. You need to replace the meat. You need to have things that will replace the meat, that will replace the fat. And if you don't have them, you can actually get very sick and die. So that's why that's why Rihanna in the presentation explained that you need to educate yourself before you go down that road. The Lord give us intelligence, and you notice how the health reform make you bright. As you know, I shouldn't say it make you much brighter than anybody else, but in terms of the intelligent approach the Lord wants us to have, it actually helps us to be able to communicate better with heaven, and it helps us to understand our Bibles more. It helps us to comprehend things better. It actually cleans up the mind, cleans up the body, because the mind and the intestines, the body, everything works together as a whole. And so when everything is working real good, the body will function like a well-greased machine, doing everything right, the perfect way how God wanted it to do. And your mind will work well, and you will understand and know what is the best thing to do. So a question here is, what do you take for B12? So one thing that is going out there is that vegetarians have to take B12 supplements because B12 is not in anything except meat. Now that's a fallacy. B12 is in other things besides meat. The thing is, B12 is a vitamin that is, your body just needs a very, very tiny amount of it.
What do you take for B12? I'm guessing it's me. It's the question is, as a non-meat eating person, what do you take for B12?
Okay, that's a great question. Most vegetarians and vegans take B12 supplements. But I think the really important thing about B12 is that I've, it's not a supplement that you need to take continuously. A very little amount, about the top of a pencil point, can last you for about months. There is a fallacy in this system that because there aren't naturally found sources of B12 outside of the animal kingdom, that therefore, you know, vegans need to have a whole lot of it. So not only could you possibly try supplementing B12, which you don't need to take a lot of, but one thing that a lot of people have reported is that the first thing that you wake up in the morning and do, drinking some water before you brush your teeth, actually helps to increase the amount of B12 that you have and that you keep in your body. You can do some research on that. And there are some natural forms of B12 as well. Um, and I think one of the most interesting things that many people don't know is that a lot of baked products that has baking soda, or baking powder, or different things like that actually reduces the body's efficiency of B12 absorption. So although a lot of people eat meat, they also eat a lot of other foods that inhibit B12 absorption. So yes, believe it or not, many people who eat meat are also vitamin B12 deficient. So one of the main things I would say is that if you're open to supplementing, you can supplement, and also making those sorts of changes like drinking a cup of water first thing in the morning.